Hey everyone, welcome back to another video here on the channel. This week Mazda was kind enough to send me one of their best-selling models within their lineup, one that I've yet to experience, and that is the 2025 Mazda CX-5 Turbo Premium. Now the CX-5 has been a very important instrumental vehicle within Mazda's lineup over the last couple generations because it's been a very popular vehicle and one that has grown the brand, grown exposure, and gotten a lot of praise from media owners out there for what this vehicle currently has to offer. It borders on a luxurious experience on the inside. The build quality is excellent. It has a very traditional feel behind the wheel, a little bit more sporty in driver engagement versus that of some of the competition that's a little bit more softer, a little bit more plush. This vehicle is certainly going to be a little bit more on the firmer side of things, which I personally appreciate, and is also going to be one of the more powerful options when you do option that turbo engine. So all in all, there is a lot to like about the current generation CX-5, but I'm curious about the next generation and what they do change about this vehicle among making it larger, which is going to be a benefit because this vehicle is a little bit on the smaller side of things for the current compact SUV segment. But without further ado, let's not waste time. Take a quick walk around tour of what this Turbo Premium has to offer, and then go ahead and take it for a drive and give you guys my full driving impressions and thoughts behind the wheel, because I think there's a lot to say about what this vehicle has to offer. So take a look at the CX-5 Turbo Premium in front of us. This one's finished in the Platinum Quartz exterior with the black and red accented leather interior. This is the second highest trim within the Turbo CX-5 lineup, as there is the naturally aspirated engine available as well in a variety of trim levels. But overall, this is going to get you most of the features and equipment that is available on the CX-5 lineup. But just know, if you want a little bit of a different exterior appearance and some more niceties on the interior, then the Turbo Signature is going to be the trim level for you. Starting at the front of this Turbo Premium, you will find some nice gloss black and dark chrome accents that contrast very nicely against this platinum quartz exterior. So you have the LED projector headlights that are steering responsive and adaptive, the LED daytime running lights and turn signals all in that upper housing right there, front and rear parking sensors, and you can see there is a lot of gloss black trim over that signature trim that I was talking about that gives you all body color on the exterior. So if you like the gloss black or the dark chrome accent, the Premium is certainly going to be the better fit for you. And you have the radar for the adaptive cruise and the 360 surround view camera system located just below that. Now coming around to the side profile, you can definitely tell the contrast of this Premium against the platinum quartz paint. So all this is going to be gloss black around the fender flares versus the body color that's found on that top signature trim level. Coming to the wheel and tire setup is going to be a 19-inch gloss black wheel wrapped in a 225/55 19-inch Toyo A36 all-season tire. It's a nice Grand Touring all-season option. Gloss black mirror caps that are power folding. You do do have turn signal integration, cameras on the bottom for that 360 camera system. They are going to be heated, blind spot detection, unfortunately not auto dimming on the exterior. You have regular proximity entry on both of the two front door handles, nice tinted rear glass, a little bit of bright silver trim on the belt line there. No roof rails, which are an interesting note on the CX-5 lineup, but you do have the smaller single power sunroof just above there. Nice body color shark fin antenna. And then coming out to the rear of the CX-5, you're going to have that gloss black trim that does continue on around the bottom side of the body. You do have full LED lighting for the taillight, turn signal, reverse light, all in this upper housing right there. There's the dual outlet chrome exhaust tips with the rear reverse sensors, CX-5 all-wheel drive badging in the bright chrome. Backup camera is located just above the license plate with the nice bold Mazda logo on the hatch. Traditional located rear wiper that's not hidden underneath the spoiler because the spoiler is fairly small and minimal in design. But overall, you can tell it's a very traditional design that's been out for a number of years now. This is like 5th or 6th model year in its current iteration. It still looks very modern, very fresh. And you guys all let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. But let's go ahead and take a quick look on the interior before we set up a few cameras and take this vehicle for a drive. So take a look on the interior. This one has the black leather interior with red accents, but there are going to be a few different interior colors available depending on the exterior and trim level that you do choose. Starting out here on the door panel, you can find a lot of soft touch premium materials that do differentiate most Mazdas on the market versus that of some of their rivals that compete in different segments. So up top, this is going to be soft touch genuine leather with the gray accents. You have the more padded soft touch armrest with the red accents, a little bit of gloss black trim with the full power windows, mirrors, and locks, power folding mirrors. As I mentioned, all 4 windows are fully automatic up down, which is a great addition. Bright silver door handle pull with the door storage down below, and the Bose premium audio system. does have the illuminated scuff plates, which are, I believe, an additional accessory. And coming to the driver's seat, it's going to be a fully powered driver's seat, two-way lumbar and two-position memory located on top there. You can see the black leather with the red accents, which is a little bit on the pinkier side, so not my preference, but is nice to have a little bit of touch of color. And there's going to be a look at the dashboard, which is going to be mostly traditional Mazda. So here in the interior of the CX-5, you're going to find a very traditional and familiar Mazda experience if you've been inside any of their other products over the last decade or even longer. Now in front of the driver, you're going to find a partially analog and partially digital gauge cluster with about a 7 or 8 inch display in the middle with your simulated analog speedometer in the middle. You have fuel economy information, ambient exterior temperature, odometer, some trip information, as well as speed sign recognition on the right side. Analog tachometer on the left, coolant temp, as well as fuel gauge on the right side. And then coming back to the steering wheel, this is going to be a black leather wrap steering wheel that is heated with some of that red accent stitching and a little bit of silver trim at the bottom. On the left side, you have your audio multimedia, as well as Bluetooth and voice command controls. On the right side, you have some of the Mazda driver assist, including adaptive cruise control, lane centering, things like that. Paddle shifters for the 6-speed automatic transmission on the back. Automatic headlights with auto high beam assist. You do have rain sense wipers in this particular trim level. And to the left of the steering wheel, you have your power tailgate, 360 camera view button right there. Parking sensors on and off, lane departure or lane keep on off, manual tilt telescopic steering column, and then you have your fuel cap release and hood release a little bit farther down on the dashboard there. And coming across the dashboard, you see some nice soft touch materials out there. And one thing you might immediately notice is that bright heads-up display in front of the driver that is included on this trim level. That includes some of the driver assistance, speed sign information, traffic information, blind spot detection. It is very integrated well and is pretty bright. This is actually not on the brightest setting, but you can see it through most sunglasses, even if polarized, with relative ease, so I do like that. Now coming back to the infotainment system, this is going to be the 10.25 inch Mazda UI or latest system within any of their vehicles that does support wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. It is still controlled via the multimedia infotainment controller here down in the center console. So it's not going to be a touchscreen on Mazda's UI, but is going to be a touchscreen if you go into Android Auto. And once Android Auto is connected back inside the vehicle, it does turn into a touchscreen, so you can use that if you wish, in addition to the controls down here in the center console. Now, this display is actually a very high resolution display. It has the 360 camera system, which I did mention just a few minutes ago. And you can see that is a nice crisp resolution with the dynamic guidance lines and things like that. Overall, I really do like Mazda's UI and technology, although there are some people that obviously don't like the way it is controlled in the inputs via the controller on the center console. But coming down a little bit lower, you do have the AC vents. Heated steering wheel buttons located right here. This vehicle is equipped with heated and ventilated front seats and heated second row seats. Dual zone automatic climate control with nice beefy physical controls. I really do like that. And then you do have the wireless charger pad for your smartphone down there. A little bit of additional storage with a 12-volt outlet. Nice mechanical gear shift in the center console with a little bit of gloss black and silver accent trim. Drive mode selection is located just beside that. You have sport, normal, and off-road mode for the all-wheel drive turbo models. There's the electronic parking brake with automatic vehicle hold, volume, navigation for the multimedia, and some quick settings or access menus beside them. You have two decently sized cup holders there with the Mazda traditional proximity key fob. Has basic controls, including your hatch, lock, unlock, and that's pretty much it. Nice padded center armrest with accent stitching. Inside, you'll find two USB-C charge ports and additional, it looks like 12-volt outlet right there, and a little bit of a removable tray, which I did take out just briefly here. And then coming up here to the headline, you do have very nice soft touch premium pillars with the Bose accented tweeters right there. This pillar material and headliner material is very premium. You have LED accent vanity illumination, auto dimming interior mirror with garage home link, sunglasses holder, more LED illumination. They do have the smaller power sunroof, as I mentioned, which just covers the front seats. It's not a panoramic type or extended type like in the CX-50, which I have tested on the channel, but overall is still gonna let in a lot of additional light. So that's a look here at the front seat. Let's go ahead and take a look out back. So take a look at the second row of the CX-5. All the materials are gonna follow through from the front seat. So on the door panel, all of this is gonna be the same soft touch leather or simulated leather as the front doors. You still have the illuminated scuff plates back here. And in terms of the seats, all of that red accent in the leather material is gonna be identical. Now stepping inside the CX-5, it's actually very easy given the large squared off door opening. You see the door actually goes like 80 degrees out. So you have a decent size opening for such a relatively small compact SUV. Taking a look at the front dashboard, there you can see all of the technology and screens. Now coming to the rear seat, you have AC vents located on the back side of the center console, mat pockets on both of the two front seats. The headliner is very soft, as I mentioned. You have overhead LED lighting in the middle. Seats are going to fold down 60-40 split, and inside of the center armrest is where you're actually going to control the rear heated seats, which are 3-stage. And then inside the center cup holder here, you have two USB-A charge ports, 2.1 amps. So unfortunately, these are not USB-C like the front row, but it is going to be nice to have just USB ports for charging devices. Additional cup holders back here, and all in all, this is actually not a terrible place to be. Behind my driving position, I have several inches of legroom. As you can see, I have plenty of headroom with like 3 or 4 inches of headroom. And overall, despite the relatively small size on the outside, the interior is going to be very usable. And I could see a lot of people liking this if they don't need all the additional space of some of the larger options in this segment. So take a look at the cargo area behind the second row seats. This vehicle does have a hands-free power liftgate. And take a look behind the second row seats. This is actually going to have a fairly generous amount of space. You can see this one has the optional cargo cover, which is retractable right there. You can fold down the 40-20-40 seats on both the left and right hand side there. So the center armrest or center portion does fold down individually or separately. Little cubbies on the left and right with additional 12-volt outlet right there. And beneath the floor, you will find the Bose subwoofer for the premium audio system, as well as a temporary spare tire with additional storage space. So generally speaking, this is actually going to be a pretty nice cargo area, and if you need to customize and configure these second row seats as needed depending on what you're carrying, that is possible with this particular model. Now, wrapping this video up here on the passenger front seat, you will find a power passenger seat that does have height adjustment. However, it does not have power lumbar, which is a little bit unfortunate. So you can tilt the cushion, or excuse me, just tilt the seat up and down. There's no front tilts for the cushion, but you can see materials, all of that are the same. There's the soft touch dashboard, a little bit of accent trim there. Inside the glove box, it is damped, nicely lined. It is not illuminated, but you can see you have all your original owner's literature and stuff in there. And yeah, that is basically going to be a look here at the CX-5 in the last model year in the current generation. Now let's go ahead and set up a couple cameras, take this vehicle for a drive, and give you guys my overall driving impressions. So now you join me behind the wheel of the CX-5 Turbo Premium, and as usual, I want to start out with my acceleration test to test out this 2.5 liter turbo. Full throttle sport mode, just a little bit of wheel spin, and this thing gets up pretty darn good. So under the hood of the turbo models, you're going to find a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder Skyactiv G engine paired to a 6-speed torque converted automatic transmission. This combination puts out 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque through all 4 wheels through a standard all-wheel drive system, and 0 to 60 times are at least 2 seconds quicker than that of the naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine that come in the cheaper or lesser trim levels of the CX-5 lineup. But this turbo powertrain is certainly one of the reasons that I actually like a lot of the Mazdas that I've driven and tested here on the channel, because generally they're very torquey. Putting your foot into it, the 6-speed knows exactly what to do, and there is a ton of low-end torque on tap. But my week with the CX-5 has been pretty uneventful, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now, the one thing that I was very interested to see about the CX-5 versus the CX-50 that I tested a couple years ago now is just how much I would like some of the minor to moderate changes that this body style and this chassis has over that CX-50. Now, one of the big things that I noticed right off the bat, just a few minutes into driving this vehicle, was going to be the seating position. This vehicle has a much more upright seating position. Almost feels like you're sitting on top of the vehicle rather than within like a relaxed sedan type seating position, more so of the CX-50. And I actually prefer the CX-50 a little bit more for its seating position versus this vehicle. However, when it comes to visibility, that's where the CX-5 definitely has a slight advantage over the slightly larger and newer CX-50. So looking over the hood in the lowest seating position, I can actually barely see the hood because the seat and the dashboard is a little bit on the larger side, especially when combined with the heads-up display out here in front of the driver. Now, the A-pillars inside this vehicle are actually going to be a little bit on the larger, chunkier side of things, at least from some of the recent products that I've tested here on the channel. Luckily, the mirrors are actually mounted on the doors fairly low, so you do have a little bit of glass between the A-pillar and the door mirror itself. The glass is fairly sizable. It does have standard blind spot detection, some of the driver assist features that one would expect. Now, looking over my shoulder, this is another issue that I had with my seating position and the design of the CX-5, is the B pillar is literally almost right in line with the back of my head here. So I do have to, move up and lean forward just to see out, taking turns just like that one, to see oncoming traffic and vehicles. And then out the rear of the CX-5 is actually pretty good. The headrests do get in just a little bit on the sides, but really it's going to be better, or just as adequate as most compact SUVs in which this vehicle competes with. Now, in terms of ride quality of this vehicle, that's one of the characteristics that Mazda has been known for across most of their lineup, is going to be a little bit of a sportier, more dynamic, and a firmer ride than that of some of the rivals in which they compete. So the CX-5 is no different. It rides a little bit on the firm side, going over some imperfections with these 19-inch alloy wheels. You are certainly going to feel these bumps make their way into the cabin, but it's not necessarily a harsh ride quality. It's just firm. It's well damped, it's well controlled. I have no complaints with how this vehicle drives, and in fact, it makes it a little bit more fun to drive around the twisty turns of on-ramps, off-ramps, any back roads that you might find to drive this vehicle on. I think it's certainly a worthwhile trade-off. It's just something that you need to be aware of ahead of time. Is going to be the firmer, ride quality, suspension tuning, and driving characteristics. Now, in terms of the interior noise levels, driving at about 60 miles an hour here, you hear a little bit of wind noise making its way into the cabin, but it's not anything that the Bose premium audio system can't overcome at higher speeds such as the interstate. And on windier days, again, it's going to be a little bit more noticeable, but you close the sunroof shade, you turn on the audio system, it's going to be just about average for this segment. It's not inherently on the quiet side, it's not inherently on the loud, noisier side of things, and you do hear that 2.5 liter turbo rumble quite a bit, and actually makes a very pleasant, well-tuned sound in the cabin versus a lot of the other turbo 4 cylinders or just engines on the market. So that is another attribute that is actually a positive, is the engine note and the engine tuning. But transitioning here onto the interior of the CX-5, this is obviously going to be one of the benefits and highlights of Mazda's products in general, at least from what I've experienced. The build quality, the material usage for a given segment and price point like this one, coming in right at $40,000 with some of the additional options and accessories, is very darn good and borders on luxury. I wouldn't quite call it full-on luxury, but it's definitely a premium option within the segment, with all of these soft touch door panels with the accent stitching. You have a nice thinner leather wrap steering wheel that isn't super bulky and super thick like some other products. And just looking around the cabin, it just looks the part, it feels the part. The build quality, there's no been weird squeaks or rattles that I've experienced. And going over these bumpy section of road that I drive every vehicle on, it really does show not only the firmer ride quality, but just the build quality in the sense of premium feel behind the wheel. Now, in terms of the actual design of the interior, that is where one small item and attribute does come into play, is that this center console is a little bit on the larger, wider side of things. So my knee has been resting up against it here over my last 6 days behind the wheel. And it is slightly padded, but it is a little bit on the firm side. So that is something to keep in mind if that you are a taller individual or a taller driver, is you definitely are going to feel the center console likely get in the way at least somewhat of your natural driving position, but it hasn't been too much of a discomfort. It's just something that I have picked up on and is not something that has been noticed in every vehicle in this compact space, such as the Hyundai Tucson, which has a pretty open center console for the refresh and generally a little bit of a wider feel here in the driver's seat. Now, speaking of the seat comfort, this has actually been okay. Again, not the best. These are the genuine black leather seats. They do have power adjustments with two-way lumbar on the side, memory seats, and the thing I don't love about them is going to be the bottom seat cushion is a little bit on the shorter side. So what this means is that they stop before they really get to the back of the crease in your knee area, and it just doesn't have the optimal thigh support that I've found in some other vehicles. So if the seat cushion bottom was another inch and a half longer, I think that would help out a lot with overall comfort. But a lot of the power adjustments do allow you to get you know, fine tune the seat to your given position, but I have the seat maxed out in its lowest position as well as the tilt on the cushion. And all in all, I just wish it, you know, had a little bit different range of motion as well as a different overall shape. Now the headrests actually haven't caused me any issues whatsoever, as they're in a good position here. No issues with my spinal fusion. So from that standpoint, it's actually been a very positive week with the CX-5. Now in terms of some of the interior technology in the CX-5, I think this is personally a subjective matter because it does have a partially digital gauge cluster with limited customization, as well as their latest 10.25-inch infotainment system with the multimedia dial in the center console. Now, according to what I've seen on the next generation 2026 CX-5, they're going to a larger touchscreen only system with some of their next generation UI and you know, controls and functions. And I think this is going to be a large win for the CX-5 and buyers of Mazda products in general as this rolls out to some of their other products. However, with that being said, I actually like the multimedia controller, and I don't necessarily see why so many people complain about it. When it's integrated with Android Auto specifically, the dial does exactly what you want. It goes between all these different functions and features and buttons that you can press if you want to use the touchscreen when this is actually up on the screen. But I think the controller in the center console, it's fairly ergonomic, it's easy to use, and once you use it for a couple days, it's like natural. It just comes right to where your hand will rest. I do wish it had some of the automatic seat climate controls that the CX-50 does have. At least the Meridian edition I tested a couple years ago, where it'll automatically do the seat climate with the automatic climate control depending on the outside ambient temperature and the temperature that you have the climate control set to, but not really a big deal hitting the physical button down here. And all in all, I really don't have many complaints about the interior. It's fairly roomy, it's fairly spacious. Definitely more on the utilitarian side for the rear seat occupants, but I like the heated rear seat availability and things like that. But going around this turn here to get onto the on-ramp, unfortunately we are following another vehicle, so I can't really push it here. Now in terms of the driver assist technology, this is where it becomes a little bit lackluster, at least in my opinion. You do have lane centering and adaptive cruise control with traffic jam assist, depending on the trim and the specification that you do purchase or are looking at. Activating it's very easy. You simply turn it on, you hit set, and it will automatically set the cruise control with the adaptive distance setting to whatever you have it currently positioned at. So this is really where I'd like to see Mazda start to improve and invest in some more advanced driver assist technology that they can roll out to not only the higher trim levels like they have it currently positioned, but also just as standard equipment, or, you know, really closer to the entry-level price point. Because Hyundai's lane follow assist function with the lane centering using the cameras, as well as Kia's and Genesis's, is just, you know, one of the better systems currently in the segment that compete directly with this one. Of course, we do have some forward attention camera system vehicles that are coming out as well that do monitor your face and eyes. I like how Mazda does not have that on the CX-5. But at the end of the day, the adaptive cruise radar system works well. The lane centering works well enough for everyday use. It's just not the most advanced, most robust system out there in terms of its performance, its reliability. But when combined with nighttime driving in the adaptive LED projector headlights, that is something that a lot of the competition is not doing, that I do appreciate Mazda investing, because forward lighting is no joke. And to have good adaptive LED projector headlights in today's world should not be something that I am praising Mazda for, but it is going to be the case because a lot of the fixed in place beam LED headlights are okay generally in their performance, but when you combine it with the adaptive function, it certainly adds an inherent benefit for people that might do a lot of nighttime driving. Wrapping up this driving review video, the CX-5 has done everything that I expected it to based on my experience with other products within their lineup. It has a very premium feel behind the wheel. It has most of the features, options, and equipment that one would want for the roughly $40,000 price point. If you want the different exterior styling with the slightly nicer seating surfaces, then you can get that signature trim level. But personally, for over $2,000, I would skip it and stick with this Turbo Premium within the lineup for, you know, just over $40,000, depending on the color and the additional accessories and options that you do select. I really don't think you can go wrong choosing this model versus that of the competition. You just need to be aware of the ride quality being a little bit on the firmer side, the footprint being a little bit on the smaller side in terms of cargo, second row legroom, even here in the front seat, with the width of the vehicle being a little bit more on the narrow side with this larger center console. But heights and headroom, basically unlimited for other vehicles that I've tested, especially with a power sunroof. And I love the way it drives. I love this powertrain. It is going to be a little bit on the more fuel inefficient side in the low to mid 20 mpg range, depending on if you're looking at city or highway fuel economy. But if you're looking at the standard gas engine from that of the competition, it's not going to be down so substantially that you might want to consider just eliminating the turbo altogether. However, if you're looking and comparing it to that of the hybrid because of the additional performance of this turbo engine, then yes, fuel economy is going to be down significantly from that of basically every hybrid competitor to this model with similar output and performance figures. So, you know, it kind of just depends on what sort of driving characteristics and preference you have. If you like hybrid, if you like just standard gas engine with a turbo on it. And the 6-speed automatic is another standout thing versus CVTs, IVTs. Some other manufacturers have started going back to traditional automatics, so that isn't necessarily a standout feature in the compact segment, but is so in some of the other segments in which they compete. But overall, I like the CX-5. I think it's a very competitive, nice vehicle. It's just a little bit on the dated side, and I think it's good that for 2026 they are finally making this vehicle larger, more competitive within the segment size-wise, and the new design language is going to be updated to match that of some of their latest products, including CX-50, CX-90, CX-70, which I have videos on the channel over all of those different products. So make sure you guys check those out if you guys are curious about that. But with all being said, I appreciate continued support on the channel. If you guys enjoyed this video and or found it helpful, make sure to hit that like button below, subscribe if you haven't already. Check out additional coverage, including likes and dislikes on this CX-5 and all those other Mazda products that I did just mention. And I want to give a huge thanks to Mazda for sending this vehicle out for me to test and review, and of course you guys for watching. And as always, I hope to see you guys in the next one.